Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining today. We're going to just take about a minute or so to make sure everyone is settled in, and we'll get underway with today's webinar. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about the field of school psychology. Welcome everyone. We're just going to take about a minute or so to make sure everyone's settled in before we get underway with today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll begin in about a minute or so. Welcome to today's webinar. All right, we're going to begin. Thank you so much for taking your lunch hour to learn more about the field of school psychology, a little bit more about William James and the admission process through the program. My name is Joshua Scala. I work in the communications department here at William James, and I'll be your host today. We can move to the next slide. We'll also hear from the star of the show is Dr. Robyn Bratica, who's an associate professor in the department and also the director of the MA CAGS in school psychology program. And we'll also hear from Mario Murga, who is the director of admissions and is an expert in all things admissions. And he can tell you a bit about that process, a little bit about the financial aid process, as well as answer any of the questions that you may have. So we will move to the next slide. And this is where I'll tell you a little bit about William James. We're located just outside of Boston, right in Newton, and it puts us in an advantageous spot, I think, because it puts us next to a lot of great places, medical facilities and schools, various hospitals, through forensic field. There's so many. There's over 350 field sites that we work with for students across our programs. So Massachusetts is certainly a hotbed for these kind of places, and we're very happy that we get to offer the range that we do. There is plenty of parking on campus. It's, I think something that really comes to mind about William James is that the fact that we're all kind of rooted within behavioral health, the different aspects, the different branches of behavioral health. Everyone has the same kind of worldview, I'd say, on mental health and wanting to help others. I say we're a college of helpers. So everyone here is kind of pushing forward for, supporting behavioral health measures. And I think it's a great community in that way. The programming that we offer, the events that we offer, they're all kind of tied towards understanding behavioral health and marketing, understanding those different aspects. And we can move to the next slide. There's just a quick overview of the programs that we have here. We have our clinical psych department. We have our counseling and behavioral health department with some various degrees, and as well as our bachelor's completion program, our organizational and leadership psychology department, and then also the school department, which includes our MA CAGS in school psychology, our master's in applied behavioral health analysis, and our certificate in ABA as well. We can move to the next slide. Just a bit about our core values. This is something that it exists across all programs here at William James. It's really the kind of the fabric that we're woven from, I'd say. Experiential education is something that we strongly believe in. So from the first day that you're here at William James, our goal is to get you into a field site or a placement that you can feel comfortable in and start that process of gaining that experience. And it also exists as a something that, our professors are all kind of practitioners themselves. So they are, they have that experience in the field. They help students through that. And so it's really just a commitment across, the entire process here at William James from the first day. we can move to social responsibility, where social responsibility is something we take we consider it through all of our programming, the things that we create. So our programming that works with underserved communities, that we're always kind of growing, from our CMGMH, like our Asian mental health concentrations, over to our new LGBTQI plus concentration. A commitment to social justice exists throughout the program, as well as in our school psychology department, and we will talk more about that. Finally, personal growth. It's not just about the education that you gain here. It's that you're supported. It's that there is an inclusive opportunity for you to feel supported here. It's mentorship. It's having school social groups that help you to feel supported throughout your process here. It's about gaining understanding about yourself. It's about gaining understanding about the world around you. It's a really critical component to the work that we do here. And we can move to the next slide. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So we'll have a couple opportunities. We'll have an opportunity at the end to answer your questions that you have about the process, anything you hear today. And you can just do that by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom there and asking your question. And when we get to that point, we'll get underway with those questions. Something that also, if you don't have a question today, let's say you wake up in the middle of the night and you think, I have a question, my opportunity is gone. It's not gone. We're going to give you our contact information and we will help you through next steps. You can ask questions, so whatever your heart's desire, we're here for you throughout the process. So we can move on to the next slide. And this is where I will hand it off to Dr. Robyn Bratica. Hi, Robyn.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dr. Robyn Bratica, and I am an associate professor in the school psychology department, and I'm also the director of the MA CAGS program in school psychology. So now I'm going to spend a bit of time talking to you about that program specifically, the MA CAGS in school psychology. Next slide. One of the things you need to consider when thinking about graduate school is what you want in your career. When thinking about your different options and if school psychology might be right for you, some of the things to think about are, well, number one, are you interested in working with children and/or youth? As a school psychologist, this is the group of individuals you're most likely to spend most of your time with. Do you want to be able to contribute to supportive communities? Schools in and of themselves are just that. They are communities and they're part of a larger community. And by being a school psychologist, you would have the option and the possibilities to be a part of this. Do you want to make a positive difference in someone's life? Every single day, you're going to have the opportunity to come into your work environment and make a difference for children, youth, and adolescents. Do you want to create effective schools? Do you see education as a fundamental responsibility and something that all children should have access to? And do you want to be part of it? And then also for you personally, do you want a job with a nice salary, a high salary, and good benefits, good job stability? Working as a school psychologist gives you many of the other benefits you would have as an educator. So you have the school schedule. Typically, you would work about 35 hours a week for 10 months of the year, getting summers off. You would be part of the teacher's retirement system. You would have the similar town and state benefits that other individuals in schools would have. So all of these things make school psychology a wonderful career to enter. Next slide, please. So what exactly does a school psychologist do? When we think about the field of school psychology, in a nutshell, they are professionals who are taking mental health, learning and behavior, and work with it all together to help children have the best outcomes that they can. So they help children succeed academically, socially, behaviorally, and emotionally. We talk about the 10 domains of practice. So I won't go through all of those right this moment, but we'll talk about it a little bit more in the presentation. But essentially, school psychologists work together to assess children, to see what types of difficulties they're having. They provide direct counseling services to students to help them in their times of need, and they provide consultation with parents and teachers to help them effectively work with children. Next slide. So if all of this sounds good to you so far, the question you might be asking is, well, what do I need to do to become a school psychologist? How do I get to be part of this career? So a school psychologist is required to have what is called a specialist degree. And so here at William James College, we consider that the MA CAGS. So you receive both a Master's of Arts and a Certificate of Advanced Graduate Study. And together, those two degrees equal the one specialist degree. So in some other places, some other states, you might see that referred to as an educational specialist or an EDS. That is an equivalent degree. And this is the minimum level that you need to have to be licensed and practicing as a school psychologist. And so the minimum time to completion is 3 years. The first 2 years include your coursework, whereas the third year is your full-time internship. However, you do have practicum experiences getting you out into schools and in the field in those first 2 years, which I'll be talking more about momentarily. And the certification that you would get upon completion of our program, you would be eligible to be licensed as a school psychologist in Massachusetts and many other states. You would also be eligible for the nationally certified school psychologist credential. And then with additional supervision, you would be able to also become a licensed educational psychologist in Massachusetts. So all of this can be obtained with that specialist degree. And the work settings typically for school psychologists are public or private schools. But once you receive, if you are interested, that licensed educational psychologist credential, that does open the door towards more private practice if that's something you're interested in as well. Next slide, please. So what does the role of a school psychologist look like? Again, I know I already touched upon this, but school psychologists, as you can see from this image, we're superheroes. We can do everything. Well, not quite everything, but many things in a school. So we provide assessment to see how students are doing, helping them with any learning or academic problems they might have. We consult with parents, teachers, other school personnel, principals, you name it, we're there to help them and talk to them. We provide both preventative and intervention type of services to students. So we not only want to help students when a problem is happening, but we want to prevent the problems from happening in the first place. We provide staff, parent, and student education. So if you're someone who's always interested in looking into, the professional literature and sharing that with others, absolutely rules for that. We provide mental health services through counseling. We advocate for better situations for students. We can also try to research and find better ways to do things in schools and help to change the entire system as a school as well. So when you think about it, a school psychologist can do many of the same things that a clinical or counseling psychologist does, but by doing them in a school setting, you're reaching students where they're at. Students don't have to go to an outpatient clinic to see you. They are able to see you right where they need to be going, and that's their school. Next slide. So why would you want to study school psychology at William James College? Well, hopefully if you're here and you're listening, you're already excited about the field, but let's talk about why William James College is the place for you. As I mentioned before, we integrate field experience into all 3 years of our program. So starting from day one, first semester, first year, you are going to be in a school placement, 10 hours a week. And so you are going to gain experience by doing right away in our program. Also, our faculty are all experienced practitioners and instructors. And so some of the faculty members might also engage in research. We are what are considered practitioner scholars. So our preference and our priority is on knowing how to do the practice ourselves so that we can then inform our instruction and help students understand from people who have been doing the job themselves. We're also very student-centered and community-oriented. So we want you to succeed. There are no instructors or professors in our department that want to see you fail. We are all here to help you succeed, and we will go out of our way to do so. We are emphasizing in our program social justice, mental health, and preventative efforts, both around making sure that students are not having academic difficulties or social, emotional, or well-being difficulties. We are also a NASP-accredited program. So this is something that's very important. In considering your future and your career, when you're looking at different graduate programs for school psychology, you want to make sure that you are attending a program that is either NASP-approved or accredited, which means that it is held to the highest standard of school psychology preparation, and we are fully accredited. And we also offer grant funding for scholarships and clinical training to our students. So there are many opportunities for you once you come here as well. Next slide. So, what training does a school psychologist receive? So, as I mentioned before, our training program is for 3 years. And so, after your first year, you receive what is called an MA in professional psychology. So, in order to receive that, you essentially complete your first year classes. You also need to take what is called the MTEL Communication and Literacy exam. The reason we have you take this in your first year is that you are required to pass this to become licensed in Massachusetts as a school psychologist. And so we want to set you up for success, help you to pass it in your first year, so that if you do need to retake it, we have supports available to make sure that you are able to pass that test so that you are able to practice as a school psychologist. You also are required to take our first year exam. So all students take this at the end of the first year. And you would also complete your first practicum experience. In order to be awarded the second part of the degree, the CAGS in the school psychology, this is an additional 36 credits. You'll complete a practicum experience in your second year, followed by a 1,200 hours internship in your third year. And you'll also complete the different coursework that we have. You would also take the praxis exam, which is required for the national certification as a school psychologist. So you'll see the 30 credits in the MA plus the 36 credits for the CAGS gives you a total of 66 credits altogether for this program. So what that means is when you graduate and you work at a school, you would be able to be paid. There's different columns that people are paid in at schools. So you would be at the rate of a master's degree plus an additional 30 credits, which makes you eligible for a higher rate of pay when you start in a school district. And again, this training qualifies you for license through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as a school psychologist in Massachusetts and also in many other states, a nationally certified school psychologist credential. And then again, with an additional 2 years of supervision, you can become licensed as a licensed educational psychologist in Massachusetts, where you are able to do independent practice. Next slide, please. So what does the coursework look like? If you come here to William James College, your first year, you will be taking courses both around basic developmental principles, such as lifespan development, but then you'll also be taking courses directly related to the field, such as instructional assessment and intervention, where you'll learn more about academic assessments and interventions and how to work with children and adolescents who have special needs. And of course, you'll have your practicum seminar, which ties into your field experience. Similarly, in the second half of the year, you'll have courses, again, that give you the background you need to understand the concepts of child and adolescent development and psychology, but you will also have courses that are directly tied into your field experience, such as psychoeducational assessment, where you learn how to do cognitive testing with students, and behavioral assessment, intervention, and consultation, where you learn about the techniques related to behavior modification. And then during your first year, you also take 2 summer classes. However, we almost always guarantee students they're done before July 4th. So usually they end at the end of June, but most certainly by the first week of July. And then you will have the rest of your summer off until you begin classes again in year 2 at the end of August. Next slide, please. In terms of fields education, as I mentioned before, this is an important part of our program that takes part all 3 years. So your first year, you are at an elementary school for 1.5 days a week. Your second year, you have the choice of either a middle or a high school that you're at for 2.5 days a week. And then your third year, you work full-time as a school psychology intern, and it's your choice what level you want to be at, if you want to be at multiple levels. You also do not have to stay in the greater Boston area for your third year. We have had interns who went anywhere in the country. And so we certainly can work with you on that if you would like to go somewhere else for your third year internship to make sure you still meet the requirements needed for graduation and Massachusetts licensure. Next slide, please. One of the most unique components of our program is that through your first year field experience, you are part of something called Primary Project. So Primary Project is an evidence-based mental health program. It's a play-based intervention where you will work with kids in kindergarten and first grade in a one-to-one setting right away in your first year. So before you've even developed more advanced counseling skills, we teach you how to do this intervention so that right away you're able to make an impact on the lives of students that you're working with as a first-year graduate student. And so for you, of course, that helps the students that you're working with, but for you, you'll gain early counseling skills. It'll give you more insight into child development, and right away, you'll have this unique experience you can put on your resume that'll make you stand out when you graduate and are looking for jobs. Next slide. We also, in our program, very much value our community. We care about our students. We often have them refer to us on a first name basis. We really are a family within the school psychology program. And so you can see here, we do different events, both on and off of campus with faculty and students together to, really value each other and who we are in the program. Next slide. So within our community, you will have opportunities to feel like you are not just a number, that you're a person. We'll get to know you right away. We have a robust advising system where you'll get to know your advisor beginning right away in orientation. That's when you have your first advising session. We have departmental social events. We also have ACEs, which is our student leadership system. So every cohort has one or more student leaders who represent the needs of their cohort that they're in. So if you enter next year and you're part of our first year cohort, you could have a leadership opportunity right away. We also have other programs that we're affiliated with in the department. So the online ABA Master's and Certificate Program. We also collaborate with the Behavioral Health, Equity, and Leadership in Schools Center. And in terms of our clinical seminars, so those are the courses where you talk about your field experience. We keep that to 10 students or less to make sure that you have an intimate experience where you're able to talk about what is happening at your site and receive individualized supervision. We also at William James College are a home for school psychologists throughout the state of Massachusetts and are well regarded. We are actually the location where the Massachusetts school psychology trainers will often meet, as well as the Massachusetts School Psychologists Association. We host continuing education, clinical supervision groups for practicing school psychologists, and also have an annual Field Supervision Institute that brings school psychologists who work as our field supervisor to the campus. Next slide, please. As you can see here, even though our focus is on training practitioners, there is the opportunity for research. So if that is something you're interested in, faculty will absolutely support you and mentor you. And as you can see here, we have some of the different presentations that students and faculty have done at national conferences. Typically, a group will travel to the NASP convention each year, and that location rotates. So this year coming up, it is in New Orleans, and next year it'll be in Seattle. Next slide, please. One of the components that I want to talk to you about in regards to financial aid is that our department has been awarded grant funding through the U.S. Department of Education. And so students who matriculate into our program prior to beginning will be eligible to apply for scholarships and stipends related to field training. And so that this is a separate application process that you would be eligible to apply for if you are looking at coming to William James College. Next slide. And just in conclusion, for my part, we really hope you join our school psychology family. We are exactly that. Again, we are a community. We care about all of our students as individuals, as well as graduate students. And we just really want everybody to be successful and want to work together. Next slide. Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robyn. That was a great presentation. This is the portion of the program where we'll get a few questions that you have, and then we'll learn a little bit about the the process of applying, and then we'll get back to some questions. So I don't feel like you have to have your question now, but we have a question here from someone who asks, thank you for holding the session. If we are selected for interview, will the interview need to be conducted in person, or is there an interview virtually?
And I can take that. So right now, our preference is to do in-person interviews. So the initial interview will be scheduled in person. However, if you have outstanding circumstances, we would encourage you to be in communication with admissions about that. And, we certainly can be flexible if needed, but we do attempt to have all of our initial interviews in person on an interview day where we have scheduled a variety of different events scheduled to really help you see is this the place that feels right to me? So we want to make sure not only are we interviewing you, but you are getting a good sense of, is this a good fit for me to be at for the next 3 years? And we find the easiest way to do that is through in-person interviews. That being said, we understand that everybody has different circumstances. So if that's something that would not be possible for you, we still encourage you to apply, and please just be in discussion with admissions about this.
Thank you so much, Robyn. We have a question here. Where are most of the school psychology sites located?
Yeah, so in terms of the field sites, it really varies. And so, just so you have an understanding of our process, the first year, as I mentioned, you're placed in an elementary school, and we do the very best we can to look at where our incoming first year class is living, where different students are living. So, you would actually, once you decide to come to William James, you would provide information saying, I live in this town, or I plan on moving to this town for the program, to our associate director of field education. And based on that, she will try to find you a site that is a reasonable driving distance to where you live. So that is essentially the method for your first year. For your second year and on, you actually determine what your site is. So we provide you a list of sites we've looked at before. And if there's a site there that you're interested in, you would interview there to have that be your second year site. If there's a site you would like to go to that's not on the list, as long as it's at a middle or high school, that's fine. We can work with you to find that site and get that to work. And as I mentioned, your third year, you can really go anywhere in the country. So your first and second year, you are a bit more limited because you need to come to William James for classes. So essentially, your field site needs to be somewhere where you would also be able to drive to Newton for classes during the week. But then your third year, again, it can be anywhere in the country.
That's great. Why don't we move to the next slide here? And we can hand it over to Mario, who's going to tell you a bit about the application process here at William James College. How you doing, Mario?
Very good, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming and joining us virtually at least. And good afternoon, good morning, depending on your time zone, of course. I saw names of people who register who have opened an application. And you know that the application deadline is January 4th. We will continue to receive applications and consider them on a rolling basis, depending on the space available. For those of you who haven't opened an application, in red, you can see online application and the URL, very easy to remember, www.williamjames.edu/apply. How does one apply for this program to William James College? Certainly, you need to have a bachelor's degree that has been conferred before you actually enrolled. You are welcome to apply if you're still in school, with a caveat, should you be admitted, that we will receive the final transcript with degree conferral before you can start here at William James. No surprise in the next bullet point, academic transcripts. Of course, that is a normal thing. We will take on an official one if you're still in college. If you have already finished your degree, you can order that from your registrar. Of course, if you're still in the program, you can also order that from the registrar and comes directly to us. We prefer e-transcripts if that's what your college can provide, and that would be great. If not, we have a very good system by which we can pair a paper transcript with your record. 3 letters of recommendation. Nothing new to you, possibly, in terms of asking your recommenders to submit the recommendations on your behalf in the online platform that we offer. Most schools do these things these days. And so when you enter all 3 names and contact information for these future recommenders, they will receive a communication and instructions as to how to access our system. And you can also go back to your application account and also nudge them. There's an option there that you have the possibility of, having the system resend the email if they haven't submitted the recommendation. You can follow your application materials having arrived to us, including the transcripts, by revisiting your application. I think that's pretty standard these days with most colleges. Application essay. William James College does a very good job in telling you what we'd like to hear from you. Okay, so each program, should you be applying to this program or any other program at William James, you will receive the prompt and the length. for the application essay that you would upload to your application. So be sure to have one or two people check on your punctuation and your syntax, of course, to be sure. GREs, the general GREs, are not required for this program. And what I wanted to mention in addition with what you see in this slide is that coming up on Saturday, November 18th at 10 a.m., we have a virtual open house. I do encourage you to come and joining us in this virtual event. You will meet financial aid, admissions again, and the dean of students. And best of all, you will have the option also to go to different sessions, especially for the programs of interest that you have, and it will give you very intuitive ways to join those. In other words, when you register, if you are registering now, at this point, people are receiving already the landing page. There will be an open house landing page with all the links that you need. And when you come at 10 a.m., you will go to the first link. It's a Zoom link, and you will hear welcoming remarks from the Vice President of Academic Affairs and other people, including myself, and then a discussion with financial aid, admissions, and the Dean of Students. The Dean of Students telling you what it is like to be a member of this family, as Dr. Bratica mentioned. Now, if you cannot come Saturday, November 18th virtually and joining us, you can do so on Thursday, December 14th. That virtual open house is at 6:30 Eastern Time. Okay? And another thing that I wanted to tell you is a really nice thing to know that in 2024, we're celebrating our golden anniversary here at William James. So you'll be coming to this family at a great time to help us celebrate half a century of existence. Let us move to the next slide. And this one briefly will be about financial aid. So certainly everybody who applies to this program will be in the running for merit scholarships, okay? There's no application necessary for you to do, and you will receive that award with your letter of admissions. There are additional scholarships that are for this program. The merit scholarships exist for all programs. The school psychology is specific to this program. There's something called the commitment to social justice. As Dr. Bratica mentioned, yes, we're very conscious about this portion of life, really, serving people who have been forgotten, people who are marginalized as well. So such a scholarship does exist. And then the one, that MHSP fellowship that Dr. Bratica spoke about. Now, across the college, there are other scholarships that are by application, and this is the serve the mental health needs of the underserved. This one, you will need to apply with your application, and the system will prompt you whether you want to do that or not, and you will be able to upload an essay which is necessary to apply. And we will know from the onset as you submit your application that you're interested in this application, and it will give you also the qualifications. And then there's a Cynthia Lucero scholarship, and this is a retention scholarship. This is a scholarship for those of you who are interested in going to the Latino mental health program concentration. As you can hear from my accent, I'm from Latin America, so I'm very, very in support of this scholarship. This scholarship is one every year that awards a scholar, a Latino mental health scholar. You can find information about that in our website, and that's for people who have enrolled already at William James. That information will be coming to you at the right time. And certainly, federal work study does exist here at William James College. That's something that you will find out after your enrollment, and the financial aid office and career services will be informing you of all that. What you need to do is do your FAFSA. This is also nothing new to you, the free application for federal student aid. This is my favorite part of this webinar, the last Q&A. So I'll give it back to Josh.
We're in the home stretch. It's time for our final Q&A session, so feel free to ask your questions. We have one here as a follow-up to the in-person interviews. When do the interviews generally take place?
So I can tell you the exact date. So we are planning on February 10th for the in-person interviews.
All right, put it on your calendars, everyone. It's February 10th. Is the whole campus here? Is the whole program here on campus?
Yeah, so it is an in-person program. So your first 2 years, you are taking in-person classes as well as going to your field site. Year 3, again, you are at your field site. And since that is anywhere in the country, you do have seminar that you still need to be part of, but for everyone, the seminar is hybrid. So, about once a month you come to campus for that, but the rest of the time the seminar course is online and then you're at your field site. Obviously, if you are in California, you're not coming to campus once a month for class, so you would be completely on Zoom.
Great. When is the MHSP grant application due if they're applying in fall 2024?
So right now, the deadline for that has not been finalized. What I will say, though, is that you would complete the application and receive a decision prior to matriculation.
Perfect. And just so with cohort size, is there an average cohort size, and do people tend to go through the program with those same people? Is there, that's kind of...
Yeah. So typically, yes. So the way our model is that you would all begin together in your first year, and then you would stay together for the 3 years of the program. Of course, sometimes people have individual reasons why they need to have a different track, but the vast majority of people, yes, the 3 years you would all be together in the same cohort. As far as cohort size goes, it does vary. I would say I can tell you our ideal cohort size, and it does vary from year to year, but I would say, what we like to have is approximately 18 students. And so that's really great because depending on the class, many of the classes, we can accommodate up to 20 students in a class. We typically don't ever have over 20 students in a class. So there's some classes that your entire cohort would be together, which is nice. There's other classes, though, that we don't like to have more than 15 students in, or for seminar, 10 students in. So by having a cohort of roughly 18 students, you'll have some classes that are smaller where you're really learning skills, or quite small in regards to seminar where you're talking about your field experiences, and then other classes where everyone's together and you get to experience the class as an entire cohort. So that's my ideal size. Can I guarantee that's what it will be the next year? Not necessarily, but that would be about what we shoot for.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think it's time we can move to the next slide. And this is where, again, your contact information is listed here, so you can follow up with any questions that you may have. We'd love to start that process of next steps with you, and we're here for you throughout that process. There's also an opportunity to connect with us on social media. This week is actually School Psychologist Awareness Week, and so we were doing we were posting about some of the great things that our school psychologist students are doing, some of our faculty, and so this is actually a perfect time. Come see a little bit more about the career of a school psychologist. Come to connect with us. We can move to the next slide. Again, for Robyn and for Mario, thank you so much for taking the time out to learn more about our program, and we'd love to see you here coming up at a webinar. At one of our upcoming open houses. We're excited. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye,
Goodbye,
everyone.
everyone.